Yo, what's up, guys? It's your boy Franklin here. First and foremost, thank you guys so much. We are at 1.1k subscribers, so appreciate all the support. Today's video is going to be a little different. I always wanted to talk about metagame discussions in regards to OU because that's the meta game I play the most. And I've seen a lot of competitive play from the higher ladder tournaments such as World Cup of Pokemon and the official ladder tournament, which is going on right now. So anyways, there's been one Pokemon on my mind that I believe that deserves to get suspect tested, possibly after OL team, and I believe that Pokemon is Toxapex. Now, if you guys didn't know, recently, or I should say about almost 2 weeks ago, um, Cinderace and Magearna got banned. I understand Magearna getting banned, but Cinderace got quick banned. Kind of changes a lot of things within the OU. Stall becomes a little bit more of a powerhouse. Semi-balanced teams definitely ended up benefiting from the Cinderace quick ban, but I think one Pokemon that definitely get a little bit more benefit is Toxapex. Now let's take a look into Toxapex. Now, why do I think Toxapex is not healthy for a metagame? Yeah, first of all, I will admit I am a little more biased of offensive play. I definitely don't like playing against Stall. I don't like playing against semi-balance. I don't like playing any of that bullshit. But I think Toxapex as a whole, from both perspectives, it could be considered a bit unhealthy. Now, why do I say that? So before that, let's take a look into Toxapex. What kind of sets that we've been seeing around lately? So Toxapex, it can be basically max HP is kind of mandatory in order to increase its bulk. It can be bold, a max defense, physical defense, in order to sponge any physical attacks, particularly Urshifu and Zeraora. And the reason why I say Zeraora is because Zeraora is one of the best electric type Pokemon right now in the metagame, and is able to eat up a Plasma Fist very well, which is very scary with this set. Black Sludge mandatory. If you get tricked, the Black Sludge affects the trick user, so that's kind of weird. And common sets or common move sets are like Scald is only obviously the fish for the burn. It's its best attacking move. Haze is to prevent setup fodder. Recover allows it to increase its longevity. And Toxic Spikes, you just to throw around T-Spikes in order to cripple your opponent's Pokemon that are not poison types. And ability, of course, Regenerator. Regenerator is like one of the best, has been one of the best abilities since Generation 7. And I think with heavy duty boots, Regenerator definitely might be on the chopping block when the next DLC wave comes, because we end up getting Tornadus Therian, which ends up getting Regenerator, of course. And that might be problematic because it's probably going to be one of the first defoggers that can definitely take advantage of heavy duty boots and just end up just sweeping everything. I think Zapdos is another Pokemon that will benefit from heavy duty boots, but of course it's not Regenerator. So Toxapex set 2, it can run Baneful Bunker in order to scout out what kind of move your opponent has, and if of course it makes physical contact, could poison, and it obviously means it's a big problem. Knockoff is a great utility move, and it's able to cripple other Pokemon that rely on their items so much, like Choice Band users, Life Orb users, Assault Vest, Eviolite. It's able to weaken those Pokemon that rely on their items a bit too much. Of course, Recover. You want to keep your Pokemon as healthy as possible. It's annoying ass Pokemon. And last but not least, we have another set. It's called the Mix defensive set. You can increase its defense or its whatever, its special defense, depending on team needs. So like I said, Toxapex always thrives in semi-stall, stall. Bulky offense, not really, because Toxapex is much more, rarely see it on some offensive teams, but if it is, it's usually there to sponge any attacks that your teams might need to pivot into. As for teammates, Toxapex enjoys fat teammates, and when I mean fat, but particularly based on the usage of its teammates, Hippowdon always seems to be the best teammate for it, because one thing only, several things I should say. Hippowdon's immunity to electric type moves, Volt Switch, Thunderbolt, Plasma Fist, All of those moves that Toxapex really hates the most, Hippowdon can eat it up. And oftentimes Hippowdon can definitely be physically defensive with Rocky Helmet in order to punish the physical attackers such as Zeraora, or it can be specially defensive in order to take down Dragapults. Not Dragapult, but it can definitely 1v1 a Dragapult that's not Will-O-Wisp specs users that might threaten out the Toxapex very well. Next thing we have is Blissey, and like I said, Blissey, everyone knows what Blissey is. It's just so freaking fat. Its HP is ginormous. Actually, I think it has the highest HP stat in the game. But this is able to sponge special attack users that Toxapex may not really enjoy, especially Toxapexes that tend to be more physically defensive. I put all that in offense, but physically defensive Toxapexes enjoy Blissey's ability to sponge any attacks. And in case your Toxapex gets status, don't worry. And this thing also has aromatherapy, because why not? It's able to cure any status that will hinder Toxapex, particularly if somehow the black sludge is knocked off. Burn becomes a little bit of a nuisance for it, because now with Regenerator, it's only going to get 26% when switched in and the turn ends. But with Blissey, I think actually with Paralysis, it becomes definitely a 50-50 with Toxapex, because a paralyzed Toxapex, you never know when it cannot pull off that recover. You never know when it's able to clutch off the recover, a knockoff, so you never know. But with Blissey, it kind of solves the issue in this generation with aromatherapy. Another thing is Toxapex hates Psychic type users, because obviously that's one of its main weaknesses. So it enjoys partners of steel types like Corviknight and Ferrothorn, particularly Corviknight, because Corviknight is able to defog any hazards that your opponent might have set up, and thus reduce Toxapex's HP coming in, such as spikes and stealth rocks. Corviknight does enjoy a very slow pivot. It's able to have U-turn, body press, roost, and defog. Particularly, it's a great defensive typing for Toxapex in regards to psychic types and ground types as well, because it's immune to ground types. And obviously, having slow HP, sometimes not XP, a slow speed stat ensures it to either U-turn out first, or no, U-turn out last, or roost last to prevent getting Earthquake prior to a roost. So that's never gonna happen. Next up we have is Clefable. Now, I don't really need to explain this Pokemon that much, because Clefable is a very annoying Pokemon, because it can run two sets. It can run Magic Guard. It can run Unaware to prevent setup sweepers running through your stall teams. But if you have a Toxapex that somehow does not have Haze, I think it's mandatory for Clefable to run Unaware, because you don't want to lose the 1v1 matchup against particularly Hyper Offense, which relies on a bunch of setup sweepers. So Toxapex should have Haze, and if it does, your Clefable might want to have Magic Guard to prevent it getting worn out by it should be leftovers. Prevent it being worn out by poison, burn, hazards already on the field. Obviously, Clefable is a good teammate, because it can definitely be used as a cleric in case you need to wish up and teleport your way out of to another Pokemon, or to get their HP back up. And obviously Moonblast, because it's a good stab move and lower special attack, just to allow, if a special attack decreases, your Toxapex can come in and just sponge any special attack. And last but not least, you could run T-Wave or whatever just to make it easier, or you can definitely run Protect to scout out what kind of attack your opponent might have. But that's usually with the Unaware set. With the Magic Guard set, maybe you can run Calm Mind, just because you want to get some boosts on you going. But I do enjoy the Wish Teleport, because it allows you to be as a wish passer to any of your teammates. As for Hippowdon, obviously I've seen Rocky Helmet being used quite a bit, but because Cinderace got banned, it's still pretty good. Obviously we have Stealth Rocks, then we have EQ as its powerful stab move. You got Whirlwind because you want to phase out. Toxapex hates setup users, so you can Whirlwind or I should say, stall in general really hates setup users, so you can just whirlwind your way out. And then what I've seen recently is Rockslide. Now Rockslide is just primarily there to deal with Volcaronas that might have an easy time setting up on you, especially those that are Giga Drain. But you can definitely run Rockslide for the Volcarona. And if not, Mandibuzz is an issue against your team, you can just run Toxic. Why not let it fly? And then Slack Off. I think Slack Off obviously is a priority move because it, gives you longevity. But if you have a problem with Volk, you might want to run Rockslide over Whirlwind, depending on again your team needs. But because Toxapex has Haze and your Clefable might have Unaware, you might not even need Whirlwind on Hippowdon. Last but not least, oftentimes in a bunch of stall teams, especially with Toxapex, there's always primarily a wall breaker. Usually it's Weavile. Choice Band and Weavile has been pretty good, but I've seen Kyurem actually leading the way with a bunch of victories against the mirror stall matchup. So Choice Spec seems to be pretty good nowadays, and it does pretty well against a majority of the metagame, especially Rillaboom. Pretty big threat. Non-special defensive Excadrills, you're able to hit it on the switch, and then you kill it back. Mandibuzz kills it instantly. Dragapult, obviously Dragapult's faster, so you have to be careful of what it is and switch into it at the right time. Deals with fast offensive threats like Crawdont, or not hard-hitting, slower threats like Crawdont. Any revenge killers, like I said, Rillaboom, Crawdont, Bisharp, it's able to outright KO it back with the specific moves. So I've seen Kyurem pretty much, and Weavile pretty much leading the way into having good offensive presence on a stall team. Now, I pretty much kind of explained what are the best teammates for Toxapex, and pretty much why these specific teammates, what I've seen usually, have been pretty good in dealing a vast majority of the metagame in OU. Now you might be wondering, well, there is a second DLC wave coming up. Aren't there going to be more threats that can deal with Toxapex? And yeah, there is. So let's take it to the top 5 here. Obviously, we got Landorus. Landorus, I don't have to explain this. You guys played Generation 7. It can threaten out Toxapex pretty well, but again, it cannot kill it in one hit unless it's somehow Choice Banded, and Choice Band is not really good on Landorus at that time right now. Garn Chomp, again, another Pokemon that relies on probably because of the power creep, it might have to have a Sword Stance set, or even I think in those Scale Shot. I don't know if it can learn it yet, but no, I can't learn it yet, but that'll be a pretty good set. Sword Dance EQ to a KO's on. I'm pretty sure it kills Toxapex, but because of the vast additions we're gonna get in DLC, maybe Toxapex might be running Shuka Berries. It could be running the Electric Weakening Berry as well. So next up we have a Zapdos. Zapdos is pretty well. It can defog any T-Spikes it might have against Toxapex. It can also discharge, Volt Switch its way out of there, so it might be another electric threat that will be introduced in the metagame. Tapu Lele, Choice Specs. That's the first set that comes to mind. It can definitely threaten out Toxapex away. Obviously, believe it or not, Tapu Lele ends up learning Expanding Force, so this will definitely kill Toxapex from full. So Tapu Lele might be actually a problem later down along the road, because they might have to bring back special defensive Heatrans, Assault Vest T-Tars, because you have to watch out for the Moonblast as well. And then number 1, Tapu Koko. It can hold the Choice Specs set again. And this thing learns Rising Voltage. And Rising Voltage pretty much is a 243 base power move in electric terrain. And stab, this thing is an absolute monster and is able to kill Toxapex from full. But again, the issue is because Toxapex's favorite teammates are those that can eat up these attacks, like Hippowdon can eat up pretty much all of Tapu Koko's moves outside of the specs. Dazzling Gleam or Grass Knot. Blissey actually gets 2 KO'd by Tapu Lele, and there might be an issue right there. So Tapu Lele might actually be no, it will be a huge threat once the DLC second wave drops. And so they might have to run dark types just to deal with with Tapu Lele. I think T-Tar might be making a comeback. Obviously it's not good right now because of metagame trends. So now we explained about the teammates, we explained about what's happening in DLC. Now, why is Toxapex annoying? So let's take a look at several teams that I have here. Obviously, a lot of them are outdated because of the bans that happened recently. Let's take a look at this team. So, in Hyper Offense, sure, Swords Dance Rillaboom might become an issue against Toxapex, but it has access to Haze. It could definitely Scald Burn you, and it will happen. So you have to play very carefully with Rillaboom. That's why oftentimes instead of superpower, we have high horsepower. It will not KO it from full unless it's fully special defensive, and if it is, there's a very, very low chance. So let's take a look at the damage calculations of Toxapex versus certain metagame threats. So I just showed the Rillaboom set, so let's go into Rillaboom. There's the SD set. Now let's give it +2. So Grassy Glide doesn't kill it from full. It does quite a bit of damage. But if we hit it with the high horsepower, it 100% kills, which I find that very, very cool. So that definitely kills Toxapex from full. But unfortunately, again, the issue is Toxapex's teammate here, Corviknight, is able to eat that up. So you gotta play very carefully. And I think because of Toxapex's teammates, they're so good at what it does best, just stalling and sponging the hits. That's where I think Toxapex thrives the most. Now let's take a look at another metagame threat here. I think Volcarona is a pretty good metagame threat. The issue with Volcarona nowadays is it has to pretty much run Psychic. I don't even have the Volcarona moveset that knows Psychic here. Let me look for it very quickly. It's not this. It's not this. Might be this one. Oh, here it is. So, because of Toxapex presence and Dragapult's presence, Volcarona pretty much has to run Psychic in order to hit those threats. Now let's take a look at Volcarona for a second here. So we got, let's say we got a special defensive Toxapex we got to deal with, you know? And you think, well, Volk with Quiver Dance shouldn't have be a problem, right? If somehow, some way, in some god's universe that Volcarona, or the Toxapex I should say, does not have Haze. Psychic here at +1 does 55 to 64. So not only that, you have to deal with Scald, which still does quite a bit. And then any switch-ins, yeah, no problem. I can switch the Toxapex out and go into a Blissey, because Blissey is able to take that up. It can throw a Toxic at you, which obviously weakens your sweeper. It can run T-Wave, which can invalidate a bunch of stuff on hyper offense and offensive play. And so there you go. Once again, another teammate that Toxapex thrives on. And let's take a look at Zeraora. Zeraora is the best electric Pokemon right now. And wow, well, look at that. Plasma Fist does 67 to 71. That's on a calm Toxapex set. And Jesus Christ, I can't imagine physically. Physically, I'll eat it up pretty well. But again, I think the issue here is that if you compare teams that don't have any clear answer to Toxapex, I think you pretty much lose at team preview, and that's unfortunate. Obviously, teams like these, if you don't run Psychic, Volcarona, or even Nasty Plot plus Thunderbolt Gengar, Toxapex runs through this team. Not run through it team, but it can be very annoying and be hard to deal with. Urshifu. Let's take a look at Urshifu for a second here. So let's say you're going up against an Urshifu. Urshifus tend to be choice banded nowadays. Wicked Blow is still only doing 51 to 61%, and that's with the crit included. So again, Toxapex doesn't care. And while I do believe that Toxapex is essentially a pretty good Pokemon, I think it's really beyond good. If we're being very honest with you, I think it does restrict team building a bit because you have to build a team in order to defeat it 1v1. Because in the long run, when it Toxapex versus the world, if your team is not prepared for a Toxapex, most likely you will lose. You got a setup sweeper, it's gonna haze you. Oh, you got an item you need to worry about, it has knockoff. Oh, you need to worry about hazards, it got T-spikes. Oh, you think it's about to die? No, it's not. It got regenerator and recover. That thing will not die. Against rain, the rain matchup, Toxapex is super good. Obviously outside of the seismic toad, but even then, like boosted rain scalds from Toxapex, even knockoffs can pretty much deal with it very well. And again, if it has a problem with any Pokemon, it can rely on his teammates to do the job. So what am I saying here? I think Toxapex, I think in the future it should deserve a suspect test, but because DLC 2 is about, I don't know, 3 months away from now, that might change. We might get better offensive threats that are better equipped in dealing with Toxapex. And last but not least, let's take a look at the usage of Toxapex in the top 100 of the OU ladder. So I'm using this site called barbiri.net. Pretty useful website because it tells you like the top 100 teams that were used based on the ranked matches. Toxapex right there, top 5, and then we got another Toxapex team right here. Obviously this is Priest, Magirna, and Cinderace band. We scroll through, again, a lot of good teammates are here. Like I mentioned, Toxapex is able to sponge any. I think this is pretty much for the Sun mirror match, because Sun is still a pretty good. Sun is still a pretty good team, and also can sponge up the rain matchup as well. Again, Hippowdon, Clefable. Wow, this is almost this is almost what I literally just made right here, except for what was it, the Blissey? No, it was the Ditto. And Ditto also, again, mirror match for hyper offense. This does pretty well. As a matter of fact, what did it replace? Oh, the Hippowdon. Yeah, it's literally almost the exact same thing with the Kyurem as well. So, damn, that was a pretty good interpretation for me right there. Again, Clefable, Corviknight, Blissey, able to sponge the attacks for Toxapex. Now, you might be wondering, well, it sounds like its teammates is the problem. Well, you can argue that, but the reason why Toxapex is primarily a gigantic threat in the metagame is because it can just help the bulkier teammates so much. And again, if you do not have a good answer to this on team preview, you will lose. And scrolling down, we're in the top 25. Keep scrolling, keep scrolling. We see a bunch of offense, which is pretty good. I like seeing that stuff. I actually made a team like this on the Switch, so that's pretty cool. I actually have it on my team builder right now. Rotom Heat pretty much is a good Pokemon, but again, because the existence of Blissey and Hippowdon, it's gonna eat up all those attacks. And we keep scrolling, keep scrolling. Toxapex, more on the, like I said, on the balanced teams. This is definitely a sand balance team with Excadrill and T-Tar combo. Tangrowth is another good teammate because it can eat up the Psychic and the electric moves with Assault Vest or Rocky Helmet, depending on the metagame matchup. Again, another Toxapex team, this time with Zeraora, as Zeraora can pretty much nitpick the rest. Pretty much the same team. And yeah, so that's pretty much Toxapex presence. And as you can see right here in the usage from all the way up to today, which is current, obviously Clefable being the best Pokemon right now, 52% usage. So that means every 1 and 2 teams you're going to face off a Clefable in the top 100. Dragapult comes in at 31, and Toxapex can pretty much deal with that very well, outside of the Hex and Will-O-Wisp set. Then you got Zeraora, which can technically deal with it 1v1, but unfortunately because of Scald Burns and its regenerator ability, good luck. Then you got Urshifu at 26, Rillaboom at 25, Volcarona at 21, come on 20, and then last but not least, Toxapex. So 1 in 5 chances you're going to see a Toxapex, and if it's in regards to the stall, semi-stall matchup, you're definitely going to be facing it. So that's pretty much it. And what do I think about Toxapex? Well, I think Toxapex is a really great Pokemon, but because it's very annoying presence in the metagame often causes it to become a team building restriction problem, and not really over centralizing, but the fact that you have to run specific movesets on Pokemon to deal with it, otherwise you lose a team preview, is what I believe Toxapex deserves to be observed under a microscope for possibly a suspect test in the future. So that's pretty much it for the guys. Thank you guys so much for just listening to me rant about this stuff. If you guys enjoyed the video, click that like and subscribe button. Hope to see you guys in the near future. Peace in the Middle East. It's your boy Franklin signing out.